Namaskar everyone and welcome to the first episode of Bharat Gatha on the occasion of Kargil Vijay Divas. Our distinguished speaker for today's topic, Operation Vijay, the story of Kargil War, is Brigadier Hemant Mahajan. Brigadier Hemant Mahajan was commissioned into 7 Maratha Light Infantry in 1975. He has served extensively in counter-insurgency operations in insurgency and terrorist-prone areas of Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab, and the Northeast. He has commanded his battalion, 7 Maratha Light Infantry, and 2 additional BSF battalions in Operation Rakshak in the most difficult areas of Poonch and Rajouri during the times of high militancy. His unit was responsible for stopping terrorists from Pakistan into Jammu and Kashmir. For this, he and his units were awarded various gallantry awards. He was also responsible for the movement of troops and their administration during Operation Parakram, which was the biggest mobilization carried out by the Indian Army, which almost led to war with Pakistan. Later, he joined as a DS for Higher Command Wing in Army War School in 2006, where he was responsible for guiding student officers in understanding various facets of national security. He has been awarded various medals during his service, like GOCNC Central Command Commendation Card, Yuva Youth Seva Medal, to name a few. After retiring, he is actively involved in writing and speaking at various forums. Since his retirement, he has written more than 2,000 articles in various leading newspapers. He has guided various think tanks as a visiting professor and has written more than 8 books on various important aspects of national security. I would now request Brigadier Hemant Mahajan to start with his presentation.
Okay. Uh, I'm Brigadier Hemant Mahajan. I welcome you to the first episode of Bharat Gatha. Bharat Gatha is basically a rarely told stories of war, our brave heroes, untold chapters from our great history, culture, insights into issues related to national and global importance to India as a country. We will study a lot of wars that India has fought since independence, a large number of wars which India will continue to fight with its adversaries like Pakistan and China. Therefore, it's a great initiative which Omkar has taken to bring out the history of warfare in our country so that we learn from the past history and we apply these lessons learned from the past history to ensure that we do a better job of meeting challenges to our national security in the coming future. Jai Hind, I, Brigadier Hemant Mahajan, again welcome you to Bharat Gatha episode on Kargil War or Operation Vijay, a saga of courage, a battle of blood, guts, and glory. In next 40 minutes, we will talk about why Kargil War started, what was the situation before the war, what happened during the war, and what happened after the war. This war was one of the first televised war which was covered very well by the electronic media and the TV channels almost reached Kargil. The regiment to which I belong, the Maratha regiment, has a motto called duty, honor, and courage. Kartavya, man, or sahas. And the Indian Army is always ready to guard the national. This presentation is dedicated to the gallant officers and men of the Indian Army who laid down their lives in the service of the nation. May their souls rest in peace in the gallery of bravest of the brave. Remember, more than 550 Indian soldiers and officers lost their lives in this war, which was fought in 99. On 26 July, we are going to complete 21 years of the Kargil War. So therefore, we start our presentation by paying an homage to those brave soldiers who guarded our borders. As far as Indian Army is concerned, it has fought a large number of wars to protect the national interest. The 47 war, the 65 war, the 71 war, and Kargil war, which we are going to talk about. We also fought a war with China in 1962, There were skirmishes which was fought in, which was there in Nathula, in which we killed 350 Chinese soldiers. Then we had a standoff with the Chinese in Sugarongchu, in which we made them go back. Indian Army also went outside India to Sri Lanka, called as Operation Pawan, in which we fought the LTT. We also protected the government of Maldives by carrying out what is called as Operation Cactus. In addition to this, the Indian Army was responsible to ensure that Hyderabad became a part of India, called as Operation Polo. Then we had the liberation of Goa, in which Indian Army took part. Then we had the Siachen Glacier, which is called as Operation Meghdut. Then the Indian Army has been carrying out a lot of operations in Punjab. The more important operations were Operation Blue Star, Operation Woodrose, Operation Rakshak, and in J&K, we started off anti-infiltration and anti-terrorist operations in also called as Operation Rakshak. And there a large number of times the Indian Army has gone outside to UN mission. We also had a near war when our parliament was attacked, called as Operation Parakram. So this is the kind of wars which we have fought. And today we have a military standoff at Ladakh as we talk right now. Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee was in the chair when this war took place, and he was a poet at heart, and he thought that India and Pakistan, if they became friends, they could do a great job. So this is a poem which he sang when he visited Lahore. I will just utter these words for you. Bharat Pak Padosi, साथ साथ रहना है, प्यार करे या वार करे, दोनों को ही सहना है, जो हम पर गुजरी बच्चों के संग ना होने देंगे, जंग ना होने देंगे, जंग ना होने देंगे. Vajpayee ji did not want war, and he said that we should not let war take place, the kind of war that we have fought in the last few years. A poet at heart, great leader that way. But when he was uttering these words in Lahore, it was exactly at this time when Pakistani army was infiltrating into the unheld areas of Kargil. Remember, poems is okay, but this was not, Pakistan was not interested in peace at that point of time. In fact, so many prime ministers over a period of time have tried to become friends with Pakistan, but that is not happened. So here you have a very famous picture of our Operation Vijay. The Tiger Hill is in background. Indian soldiers unfurling the Indian flag there. A very famous picture. Before we talk of the operations in Kargil, let us orient ourselves into the various terrain aspects. Look at this icy mountains, look at this hills, etc. I will start off my presentation by showing you the map of Kashmir. Here, this map, have a look at it. This is the map of Ladakh, Kashmir Valley, Jammu, Udhampur area. This complete area is presently Indian Kashmir. Then what is shown in the green part of Pakistan of Kashmir, which is gone to Pakistan in 1947. In fact, the Indian Army had reached somewhere halfway in between here, up to a place called Muzaffarabad, which is basically a capital of Pakistani occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And this area, you have what is called as the LOC. This line, which is nearly 778 kilometers long, is the LOC. The Indian Army is deployed there, and every day there's a firing. Just yesterday there was a firing in Aknur, there was a firing in Naushera, there was a firing in Punch, etc. And Indian soldiers get hurt, they get martyred. And we also, of course, make Pakistan pay the price. So this is Pakistani occupied Jammu and Kashmir as far as you are concerned, 35% of the area. And what is shown in the black is the LAC, which is basically actual ground position line, or also called as the Siachen Glacier. Okay, and this area is the from here boundary starts with Pakistan, China. This is that area of Aksai Chin, which is in Kannauр, without a fight by China in 1962. What we must remember is that there was no Indian army deployed there in 1962. It was the army which came here, came from Punjab and all such places. when we talk of the Ladakh standoff in near future, we'll talk about how Ladakh was won over by the Indian Army in 1947. So this is completely the area of Ladakh, and then you have Jammu and Kashmir. So Ladakh shares boundary with two nations, basically China, this is the Chinese border, and of course with Pakistan. And this area, this side, is basically the area of Gilgit-Baltistan, and POK or POJK is basically here. From here, you have the international border, which is not guarded by Indian Army, but guarded by the Border Security Force. Okay, so and this side, of course, is China. This is Tibet, the Central Asian Republic, you can see. And this area is important. This area was illegally given by Pakistan to China. Basically, the China-Pakistani economic corridor passes from here. So I'll now quickly move on to the next slide. We will see various mountain ranges which are there. These are all areas of Pakistan. Have a look. You know, you have Gilgit, you have Astot, you have Skardu, you have Khapalu. Then this is the Shok River, which you can see. Then this is the Indus River, which you can see. And this is that famous road, National Highway 1 Alpha, going from Dras to Kargil to Leh. And there are the ranges, there are a number of ranges which are there. We'll talk about it. This is how the area looks from the LC. High mountains ranging heights from 13,000 feet to 18, 19, 20,000 feet, and even higher than that, covered with snow for most of the time. Just for a few months in a year, the snow melts. Now, this is the town of Skardu, from where all the planning was done. And this is also was recently in news, in which it said that possibly the Chinese are going to use the Skardu, but it was proved to be a wrong information. Skardu is an important town in this area, and this area is full of various glaciers. What is a glacier? Glacier in Hindi is a Hima Nadi. You have rivers in which water flows. Glacier, basically the snow from the surrounding mountains, when it is very heavy, comes down, melting or otherwise. And this is actually a river of ice. This gets converted into water for just about 3-4 months in a year. And most of the rivers which originate from Tibet get water from these various glaciers which are located here. And this is the Baltaro Glacier. Next, what happens is, because of the glaciers, a number of lakes get formed. And the famous lake today, which we are talking about, is the Pangang Tso Lake, in which Chinese intrusion has still not gone back. In this area, there are small rivers. This is how the area looks when the snow is melted. There is no trees here at all. And after the snow melts, then what happens is that the grass starts growing. In that case, the local population of Ladakh, basically, they take their animals for grazing in this area, then they become the grassland. And you can see a small, rivulet which is there. Galwan or Galwan Chu is basically a river. These rivers get into spate when snow starts melting. And the water at times is so fast that you simply cannot cross them. And here you have what is called as the SWR, steel wire rope, on which only a 1 or 2 human beings can walk at a time. Besides this, it is impossible to cross these rivers at any other place. And this is that famous peak called as the K2 peak. Remember, the Himalayas, the highest peak is Mount Everest, which is located in located in Nepal. The K2 or Karakoram peak is located in Pakistan, and the highest peak in India is Kanchenjunga, which can be seen either from Darjeeling or from Sikkim. Now, this is the area of Mashko Valley, as can be seen from 0.4785, and it is here some kind of a concentration of the Pakistani soldiers had taken place, which we had bombarded. Now, this is that famous Siachen Glacier, which is basically a wedge between the Chinese border and the Pakistani border. This is a strategically very important area because from here we can watch the complete Pakistanis, we can dominate them. Siachen Glacier, today it is occupied by the Indian Army. So what are the strategic importance see line of control, which is here, which is shown by this line. And this side is Pakistan. You see the Indus River, you see Skardu here, various plateaus are there. You have the AGPL, actual ground position line, which is basically the Siachen Glacier, which starts from NJ 9842, and from here, China starts. And this is that area of Kutuk. This area was captured in 1971 war by a great Ladakhi soldier. We'll talk about him later. And important places on our side, Mashko, Dras, Kaksar, Kargil. I have served in all this area, Batalik, Chorbatla, etc. And this is the important National Highway 1 Alpha. What we must know is that there is only one highway which connects the Ladakh from rest of India. It starts off basically from Jammu. From Jammu it gets into Srinagar. From Srinagar via the Zojila Pass, it enters Ladakh. Then it comes to Dras. From there it goes to Kargil. Then it goes ahead to Leh, etc. There's another road which we are trying to open up, but it gets opened up for only 3-4 months in a year. It is from Himachal Pradesh side, called as the Khardungla axis. So more of it later. Let us see, okay, what was the aim that Pakistan had, what was the aim that India had, and more important is when we study Operation Vijay, we should analyze as to why Pakistan went in for Kargil. We should also talk about the saga of Indian Army of blood, guts, and glory. It was a war of young soldiers fought by young officers who led from the front. It was a war which was fought at platoon, company level. There were very few battalion level attacks. So it was really a battle of blood, guts, and glory. Technology was of no use. Nuclear weapons were of no use. All this fun were of no use. All the technology which gets displayed on our 26th January parade, it was of no use. It was basically bravery. It was good leadership. It was good soldiering that made you capture all that areas which Pakistan had captured in this war. In the first part of my presentation, I will talk about the terrain or the ground, because a lot of people who have not visited this area would not know the degree of difficulty of operating here. Today, the Ladakh standoff, the terrain is same. Kargil terrain, or for that matter, Ladakh Leh terrain is the same. Look at this snow cloud. Look at the snow which is still there inside, even when the sunshine is there. Okay, and this is how the peaks look when the snow is melted. Heights here vary from 9,000 feet to 18,000 feet. Okay, now even when the snow is melted, snow still remains in gaps, and most of the places there's a problem of oxygen because there are no trees here. So you require acclimatization. What is acclimatization? A human body is not used to less oxygen. So what soldiers are made to do is, first they come up to 9,000 feet, where they make their body get used to physically and mentally for 6 days. First day they rest. Second day they walk for 1 kilometer. Third day they climb 1,000 feet. Fourth day they go with battle loads. Fifth day they go with battle loads of almost 15 to 20 kg of weight. And after then their medical is done. If they are found fit, 10% of people may fall by the wayside. They will be found unfit. And the others who get fit, what's called as second stage of acclimatization, then they go at 11,000 feet. There also they do the same thing. For about 6 days, they get the body used to by carrying out various exercises. Then thereafter they go to 13,000 feet. Again, the same 6 days of repetition is done there. And then soldiers who are found fit are permitted to go beyond 14,000 feet. And they are the ones who are operating today in Ladakh. And they are the ones who fought the Kargil war. A large number of soldiers fall by the wayside because their body cannot withstand this kind of a temperature, this kind of less oxygen, etc. The ridge lines here are narrow. The spurs are very sharp. They are very rocky. They restrict the movement. Now imagine if you have to attack somebody sitting here, how do you go? You just have to go either from here or from here. If an enemy is sitting here, then obviously he can see all the movement because anybody sitting here can observe a large amount of area in the front. Look at this rocky kind of an outcrop, you know. How do you climb this? Can you use any models here? No. The deployability is restricted. The approaches are restricted. There is no place for large forces, and operations are very time consuming. Because what happens is when you have to climb from here to here, whatever would be a rate of climbing in a lower area, here you require a hell of a lot of time. So therefore, time climbing. This is a famous feature of Tiger Hill. There is no maneuvers. Battles are fought at a platoon level, at a company level, etc. So bravery is an issue. Various kinds of modes of transports are used here. You use the mules, which is basically a cross between an horse and a donkey. They are very sturdy animals. They carry anything from 80 kg to 180 kgs. Then you have the helicopters, but with limited roads. Then you have various roads which are there from where vehicles go. Look at this narrow roads. A number of accidents take place here because these roads obviously are dangerous. Then you have a problem of landslides, you have a problem of avalanche, you have a problem of bad weather. Look at these loads carried by mules. This is a mule driver. Soldiers carrying about 20 to 25 kg of weight on their back. Mules carrying up to various kinds of loads. This is the kind of a combination that you have. As far as militancy in Kargil was concerned, Pakistanis tried it, but they were simply not successful, simply because people of Kargil are very nationalist outlook and they do not support these kind of activities. Kargil is basically an area in which Shia Muslims are there, while Leh is mostly occupied by the Buddhists. Okay, the total population of Kargil and Leh put together is 3 lakh as per the 2010 census. When we have the new national population register, we'll come to know the present strength. Now look at the various mountain ranges varying from 18,000 feet to 26,000 feet, which come in between when you go to Kargil. This side is Srinagar, this is the Srinagar Valley, and this is the Great Western Himalayas ranges. Even is the Kashmir Valley. Then you have the Zanskar ranges. From the Kargil is basically between Great Western Himalayas and the Zanskar ranges. This is where the Kargil is located. Then you have the Ladakh ranges. Today, the battle is going on here with China, and Leh is between these two ranges. Then you have the Karakoram ranges, where Pakistan is and China is, and the Karakoram highway also passes from here. And then afterwards, you have the Central Asian thing. Now look at this map carefully. It will tell you that this is Pakistani occupied Kashmir. This whole part obviously is India. And here you have the National Highway 1 Alpha starting from Jammu via Srinagar. It goes over the Zojila Pass. Now Zojila Pass is open only for about 4 to 5 months in a year. Thereafter it is closed. Now we are trying to build a tunnel under the Zojila Pass, almost about 9 to 10 kilometers. Nitin Gadkari is doing it, and hopefully if this tunnel is built, then road to Dras will remain open for 12 months in a year. That will improve our logistic abilities tremendously, because today 6 months you can not go into Kargil and Leh area at all except by air, and the capacity to move anything by air obviously is tremendously limited. So you have Dras, which is the second coldest place. You have Kargil, you have Kalsi, and then you have Leh. This side is Batali. This is the area. These are the important roads. There's hardly any road. There's just one national highway, 1 Alpha. And this is how the roads look. And these roads are also open from only June to October. Thereafter, the snowfall starts, and again, there's a problem. Okay. Now, in this part of this presentation, I'll talk about certain operational issues. I'll talk about what was the political leadership at that point of time in India, what was the political leadership in Pakistan, and the various generals who fought this war, etc. Now again, Atal Bihari Vajpayee's poem is here, Bharat Pak Padosi, Jang na hone denge, Jang na hone denge. So Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister at this point of time. He wanted to make friends with Pakistan, went to Lahore, but did not succeed. In fact, immediately after Kargil war also, we tried another diplomatic coup with General Musharraf. We got him to Delhi, but it did not help. Okay, I could have spoken on this slide for a long time, but getting too much into history is not really required. What is important is that Pakistan is a country which is not going to change easily. And all our rulers, right from 47 to 20 have tried to become friends with Pakistan. It is more or less impossible. And now aided and abetted by China, this is friendship with Pakistan is not at all going to be there in the foreseeable future. This is the Pakistani flag. And this was the person, General Ziaul Haq, who started off what is called as Operation Topaz, that is starting that irregular war in which he started infiltrating terrorists into our country. We started having problems in Khalistan in 80s and 90s. We broke the back of Khalistani terrorism, and Kashmir went into flames. Today it is under control. Thereafter, they started terrorist activities in the rest of India. So he was a man who did it. Okay. When Kargil happened, this was the leadership there. Nawaz Sharif was the prime minister at that point of time, Pakistani Muslim League, and General Musharraf was the chief. Nawaz Sharif claims that he did not know anything about the Kargil war. Even today, Nawaz Sharif has been in jail 4 times, and Nawaz Sharif has been put in jail by his own people. And today, Imran Khan had again put him in jail on some corruption issues. And today, we are told that Nawaz Sharif is not healthy at all, and his daughter is going to look after the party after him. And General Musharraf was the person, chief of army staff at that point of time, and he was a very ambitious man. He thought that he could create history by annexing Kargil, annexing the whole of Ladakh, but all his plan went astray because of the bravery of the Indian soldiers. Musharraf and Nawaz Sharif, Musharraf tried to do all the tricks of the trade, surprise, deception, strategic deception, trying to show at that point of time that Pakistani were turning friendly towards India, and he carried out infiltration. He kept his operations completely secret. No politician knew about it. Pakistani Prime Minister did not know about it. Even in a Pakistani army, this was only known to those people who actually carried out this kind of an operation. So despite all this, Kargil war, Pakistan was beaten. After the Kargil war, we tried to get Musharraf into India, tried to become friendly with him. He was made to visit Agra, Taj Mahal. He was also made to see his house where he was staying before 1947, but it did not help. Pakistan's intelligence agency ISI is the one which is carrying out all terrorist activities into India. They have a policy of what is called as bleeding India by 1,000 cuts. Actually, on this slide, I can talk again and again, but I'll leave it at this. ISI has a policy called governments may change, but ISI will never change its grand strategy of bleeding India by 1,000 cuts. So let us be under no illusion that Pakistan is ever going to become friends with you. And then another quote which is often quoted is jihad is not only a means to an end, but also an end in itself. He who dies in the course of jihad is blessed by Allah. What in nutshell it means is Pakistan understands that purely by carrying out terrorist activities, etc., they will not be able to liberate Jammu and Kashmir or take it away from India. But that is not the issue. They will keep on trying because that is what jihad is all about. And their plan is for next 1,000 years. Now, what was the exact plan which was there? It was basically started off in 86 by General Ziaul. Musharraf was able to convince the Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif that we must execute this plan. And therefore, what was done was this. It will show that it is not the Pakistani army which has done it, but it is the Mujahidins, meaning the freedom fighters or the terrorists who have done it. So, and the basic aim was what? Aim was to internationalize the Kashmir issue. Because when the war starts, one will say, oh, no, Pakistan has got nuclear weapons, India has got nuclear weapons. The two nuclear powered states should not fight with each other. So therefore, they must resolve the Kashmir issue. It's a threat to international peace. Now, what was the Pakistan's military aim? Pakistan's military aim is very clearly given here. Again, look at it. This is basically the line of control which is there. Look at this line of control. They wanted to attack this road which is there. This road which starts from Srinagar, Dras, Kargil, etc. This road is running parallel for a long time, And if you occupy heights here, then you can fire on these roads. So therefore, traffic on this road can be stopped. and the whole of Leh can be get cut, Kargil can get cut. So if this road is stopped, then there's going to be a problem of Indian Army. It will get isolated. You isolate, Siachen Glacier, you cut off road Srinagar Leh. So therefore, Indian Army cannot fight there. And what was the aim? It is not the Pakistani army who will do it, but it will be the terrorists who will do it. Pakistani army in the garb of terrorists. What are the measures Pakistan took to maintain surprise and deception? While they used the Northern Light Infantry, this is the Northern Light Infantry, this is their dress, but they were made to go into the dresses of terrorists, and no additional troops were got from outside. Remember that, So therefore, no additional troop movement took place, and this is how they looked, as if they were made to grow beard, they were made to wear Pathan dresses and look as if they were not soldiers, but they were the Mujahideen who were trying to liberate Kashmir. Now, this is the LOC, which again you see here. These are the various areas. Indus River is there. Again, in this area, you have Mashkali, you have Dras, you have Kaksar, you have Batalik, you have Chor Batla. Chor Batla, they wanted to cut it here. And this is the highway which goes later into the area of Leh. This is what they wanted. So how did they achieve surprise? What they did not go on the known tracks. They went only at night time. No additional troops were inducted. They made transmissions to show as if terrorists were planning attacks in Kashmir, etc. Even when the soldiers were killed, they did not. It was, in fact, the documents were found onto the bodies of the soldiers, etc. So there was a strict censorship which was imposed so that troops did not write letters to their families telling them what they were about to do, etc. So what was the initial build-up? When did it start off? Generally, it is said that Pakistani carried out this build-up in great secrecy from the month of March and April. 2-3 months were used in which they used helicopters, they used snow scooters, they used animals, they used porters, and it was done all at night time so that nobody was able to observe their movement. No satellite can observe this kind of a movement, and nobody knew as to what was happening till the time the war actually broke out. Now look at the defenses of Kargil. This must be explained for about 2 minutes because a lot of people do not understand. They say, how did Pakistani army infiltrate? Now, this border of Kargil is roughly about 1,000 kilometers, and they were large. And this was guarded by troops of one brigade was guarding it, and roughly about 3,500 to 4,000 troops were there. Now, LOC, line of control, which I had showed to you in the earlier map, which is basically just about 780 kilometers, is guarded by 6 divisions. A division is nearly 20 to 25,000 of troops. While imagine 1.5 lakh troops guarding 750 kilometers, and here this thousands of kilometers was guarded by about 3 or 4,000 troops. I think there are tremendous amount of gaps. These are the gaps which are shown to you, gap between defenses, etc. And the Pakistan, etc. And this is where they went and occupied those places which were not held by the Indian Army. And also what used to happen was, since there's a very heavy snowfall in this area, all these areas used to be vacated during winters because it was simply not possible to stay here. Look at this line, LC here again. Pakistan is this side, the national highway, and now see as to what kind of an infiltration took place. The Pakistanis used 11 battalions of Northern Light Infantry, which are marked here. 212 NLI and 19 FF battalion came in the Mashko Valley. Then somebody came in the Dras Valley. I'll not get into too much of detail. The NLI came into Kaksar Valley, and then battalions came into Batalik area. This is how they came up in the area which was unheld and occupied this area, which is this side of the LOC or the LAC. So the moment they came near, they could see the road, and it took some time for us to understand as to what it was. I'll not get into too much of detail as to what was 121 Brigade doing, etc. There was a brigade which was located here. There were large amount of gaps. So there was no patrolling was not possible during the winter months. So initially, the first contact was made in May, in which some intruders were seen east of Batalik, and that is where the first series of suspicion started. Then the patrol started going here. Then we had a patrolling crash at Batalik, in which we lost a brave officer. Then after that, there were many clashes. Intruders were seen in Mashko, Dras, Kapsar, north of Valley, etc. So when the whole thing started, all, then it was realized, yes, they had come here, and possibly uh, infiltration had taken place. But initially, the problem was, were they terrorists or were they real army people? So initially, it was not maybe terrorists, but the moment you came to realize that they had come into so many places with so much of strength and with so much of expertise, that it was very clear that they were not terrorists, they were not mujahidins, they were the actual soldiers, because this is the kind of a job which can only be done by the soldiers. Now, in the next part, I'll talk about the war that Indian Army fought here. Now, what we must understand is this was a war of young officers, young soldiers, etc. And it is always said that the most vital factor in any successful battle is always the valor of an individual soldier, of units and formation. There are no great tactics, there are no great strategies. It is the men who fight carrying a rifle in their hand who make a difference between defeat and victory. And it is these soldiers who fought here. And it is this man on the battlefield which tilted the scale in this war. No great technology of our country could help here. It was simple bravery, simple leadership at its best. Because what we must understand is, when death is imminent, when the situation is dangerous, every action, large or small, is decided by what the troops do on ground. Remember, some of you if you look at the history, we had Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj in Maharashtra, who used to lead from the front. When he went to kill Afzal Khan, he could have easily sent any of his equally brave subordinates, but no, he went himself. When he carried out a surgical strike on Shahiste Khan in Lal Chowk, there he had gone, Lal Mahal, sorry, there he had gone himself. Similarly, Marathas, Bajirao, Peshwa, etc., and later the Peshwas, when they went right up to into Pakistan and Afghanistan area, they were the ones who led from the front. So this is exactly the same kind of a tactics which Indian Army follows. Indian Army officers lead from the front. While we suffer a lot of casualties of officers, but then the nation wins. And we lost a large number of young officers in this battle. We will talk about their bravery in a short while. So what was the plan of Indian Army? It took some time to realize that it was properly 11 to 12 battalions of Pakistan Army which had come in this area. So therefore, they decided that priority one should be to remove the threat to this road. So which was the most important? The nearest was Dras. So operations were done in the area of Dras first. Then it was Batalik, because this would have cut off Turtuk as well as the Siachen Glacier. Then priority 3 was Kaksan, and priority 4 was Mashko, because it was not possible to attack all these places at the same time because of limitation of troops, because the troops which came here had to be brought from elsewhere, because the brigade which was deployed there could not have fought this war, So therefore, therefore, we had to get troops from outside. 8th Mountain Division, which was there in Srinagar, carrying out anti-terrorist operations, they were brought in inside here. And 6th Mountain Division, which was in Delhi, came from Bareilly. They had to carry out acclimatization. We had to get our guns together, etc. So thereafter, all the operations were started. Now, in the next part of my presentation, I will talk about the various famous battles that were fought: the Battle of Tololing, the Battle of Tiger Hill, battles of all this. Before I end my presentation, I would try and see if I can play a video of a brave soldier, that is Captain Vikram Batra. Let me see if I can play his video if it's possible. Let me just try it. But presently it seems to be difficult. But let me try again. No, I cannot see it. Okay. So what I will do here now is we will end this part of a presentation now, and we will talk about various battles that were fought in the Kargil War, how the soldiers fought bravely, and various heroes of Kargil War. This is what we'll talk about in the next part of our presentation. So I'll stop here by ending with Bharat Mata ki Jai and Jai Hind.